Welcome to the definitive guide to retirement rollovers, with a focus on why a governmental 457B can often be superior to a 401k. First, we will emphasize that your rollover decision should be driven by financial efficiency and growth potential, not convenience or employer match. Next, we will explore the fee structures, fund quality, and unique 457B withdrawal advantages. Then, we will walk through a practical step-by-step rollover checklist and contribution strategy, especially if you expect a pension and are considering Roth contributions. Finally, we will test your knowledge and wrap up with key takeaways. Here is the agenda. First, we will establish the big picture guiding principle of efficiency over convenience. Next, we will compare fees and fund quality head to head. Then, we will explain the 457B advantage related to penalty-free access after separation. After that, we will move to a practical rollover checklist to reduce friction and mistakes. Furthermore, we will discuss contribution strategy trade-offs, especially when a pension is involved. Finally, we will reinforce your understanding with a couple of short quizzes. Before we begin, here is a brief disclaimer. This content is educational and general in nature. It is not individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. Therefore, consult with a fiduciary financial advisor, tax professional, and your plan administrator to verify rules and costs for your specific plans before taking action. Additionally, confirm that you are using direct trustee-to-trustee rollovers to avoid unintended taxes or withholding. Now let us anchor the core idea. When managing substantial retirement savings from a previous job, the rollover decision should be based on efficiency. In other words, ignore whether your current plan offers a match, because matches apply to new contributions, not the rollover itself. Instead, prioritize the plan or account that provides the lowest total cost, the best fund lineup, and long-term flexibility. Lower fees compound into better outcomes over time. This principle will drive every recommendation in this video. In this section, we prioritize fees and fund quality, because these factors most directly influence your long-term compounding. First, put the old 401k, the new 401k, and the 457B side by side. Next, calculate total costs, including administrative fees, expense ratios, and any plan-level wrap fees. Then, evaluate the quality and breadth of the fund lineup. Prefer broad, low-cost index funds and institutional share classes. If you find that both the existing and new employer plans are expensive or contain subpar funds, the optimal choice may be an IRA, which typically offers maximum investment flexibility and control. Finally, remember that fees reduce returns every single year. For example, a 0.80% fee on a $500,000 balance is roughly $4,000 annually, and the opportunity cost compounds negatively over time. Let us compare the two plans directly. On the 401k side, early withdrawals typically face a 10% penalty before age 59.5, unless you qualify for the Rule of 55, which applies if you separate from service in or after the year you turn 55. Additionally, fund quality and administrative fees vary by sponsor, so thorough review is essential. On the 457B side, for governmental plans, you gain penalty-free access to your vested balance immediately after separation, regardless of age. This creates substantial liquidity and planning flexibility, especially for early retirement or bridge funding needs prior to age 59.5. Moreover, the 457B has its own contribution limit separate from a 401k, allowing potentially higher total tax advantage savings. Nevertheless, you must still compare fees and fund options within the 457B. Now, let us highlight the defining edge of the governmental 457B. Upon separation from service, you can access your vested 457B funds without the 10% early withdrawal penalty, regardless of your age. Consequently, this creates substantial flexibility for early retirees, sabbaticals, or career shifts. However, while access is penalty-free, distributions are still taxable as ordinary income, so tax planning remains important. Additionally, confirm that your plan is a governmental 457B, because non-governmental 457 plans have different protections and rollover rules. To make the early withdrawal rules clear, let us summarize. First, most 401k distributions taken before age 59.5 incur a 10% penalty, unless the Rule of 55 applies, which requires you to separate from the employer during or after the year you turn 55. Next, the governmental 457B allows penalty-free access immediately after separation, at any age, which is unusually flexible. Then, IRAs generally impose a 10% penalty before age 59.5, aside from specific exceptions such as substantially equal periodic payments, first-time home purchases up to a limit, or qualified education expenses. In all cases, pre-tax withdrawals are taxable as ordinary income, so you should plan around tax brackets. As a result, the 457B can serve as an excellent bridge for early retirees to reach age 59.5 without penalties. This timeline illustrates key ages and access rules. First, during your early career, contributions accumulate. If you separate at age 35, a governmental 457B becomes accessible without the 10% penalty immediately upon separation, whereas a 401k would still generally penalize early withdrawals. Next, at age 55, the Rule of 55 may allow penalty-free withdrawals from the 401k if separation occurs in or after that year. Then, at age 59.5, 401k and IRA funds become penalty-free for withdrawals. Later, pensions often start between 62 and 67, creating taxable income in retirement. Finally, required minimum distributions begin at legislated ages, such as 70.5 historically, now generally 73 under recent law. Confirm the current RMD age at the time you retire. The timeline emphasizes how the 457B provides earlier penalty-free liquidity following separation. Here is your practical checklist. First, gather plan summaries, fee disclosures, and fund lists from all relevant accounts. Next, compute total costs, including administrative fees, expense ratios, and any wrap fees. Then, evaluate the quality of each fund lineup, focusing on broad, low-cost index funds and institutional share classes where applicable. After that, choose your destination. If the 457B or 401k is low cost with excellent funds, consider that plan. Otherwise, use an IRA for maximum flexibility. Importantly, execute a direct trustee-to-trustee transfer to avoid mandatory withholding and taxation. Subsequently, establish a target asset allocation and a disciplined rebalancing approach. Additionally, update beneficiaries and consolidate any stray or legacy accounts. Finally, document each step and schedule annual reviews to maintain cost efficiency and alignment with your goals. This table provides a sample fee audit for illustration. First, evaluate the administrative fee for each plan. Next, look at the average expense ratios for the core funds you plan to use. Then, consider fund breadth. Are there low-cost index options across U.S. stocks, international stocks, and bonds? Additionally, factor in early access rules. The governmental 457B offers penalty-free access after separation, even at younger ages, which is unique. By contrast, an IRA may have superb costs and breadth, but does not offer penalty-free withdrawals before age 59.5, absent exceptions. Use a table like this to quantify your decision objectively. Let us craft a contribution plan when you have both a 457B and a 401k. First, prioritize the 457B because it provides penalty-free access after separation, which adds flexibility for earlier retirement or career transitions. Next, if the 401k is low cost, contribute there as well since the limits are separate, enabling higher total tax advantage savings. Then, if you are HSA eligible, contribute to the HSA for its triple tax benefit. Furthermore, if you expect a pension in retirement, lean toward Roth contributions today to reduce taxable income later, because the pension will already create a baseline of taxable income in retirement. Finally, use a taxable brokerage account for overflow savings, emphasizing tax-efficient index funds to minimize ongoing tax drag. Here is how pensions and Roth contributions interact. First, a pension creates guaranteed taxable income in retirement, which can push you into higher brackets. Therefore, focusing on Roth contributions now may reduce your future taxable income by shifting taxation to today. Next, consider the additional benefit of lowering fees. For example, if you move from a plan that costs 0.80% to one that costs 0.20%, You avoid roughly $3,000 of fee drag per $500,000 in the first year alone, and the savings compound over time. Finally, a typical contribution sequence might prioritize the 457B and Roth options, then the 401k if still available and low cost, then the HSA if you are eligible, and finally a taxable account for flexibility. This flowchart summarizes the decision sequence. First, start from the point of leaving a job with a large retirement balance. Next, compare fees and fund quality across the old 401k, the new 401k, and the 457B. If fees are high and funds are limited across employer plans, proceed to an IRA rollover for flexibility and low costs. If a plan offers low fees and excellent funds, ask whether you need early access before age 59.5. If you do, a governmental 457B provides penalty-free flexibility after separation. If not, choose between the low-cost 401k or 457B, purely on fees and fund quality. Finally, implement your target asset allocation and establish a rebalancing policy. Question 1. Which account allows penalty-free access to funds immediately after separation from service, regardless of age? The options are A. 401k, B. Governmental 457, B. C. Traditional IRA for any reason, D. None of the above. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. The governmental 457B. It permits penalty-free access immediately after separation, regardless of age. Keep in mind, distributions are still subject to ordinary income taxes if the funds are pre-tax. Question 2. If both your old and new 401k plans have high fees and limited fund options, what is often the optimal rollover destination? The options are A. Stay in the old 401k for convenience. B. Move to the new 401k to keep everything in one place. C. A governmental 457B, even if it is not available to you. D. An IRA for maximum flexibility and control. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is D, an IRA. When both employer plans are expensive or provide poor investment choices, an IRA typically offers lower costs, broader fund access, and greater control over your allocation. Ensure the rollover is executed as a direct trustee-to-trustee transfer to avoid withholding. Here are the key points. First, base your rollover decision on efficiency rather than convenience or employer match. Next, compare total costs and fund quality rigorously. Then, recognize the unique advantage of the governmental 457B penalty-free access after separation. If employer plans are costly or limited, consider an IRA for flexibility. Additionally, if you expect a pension, prioritize Roth contributions to reduce future taxable income. Finally, use direct trustee-to-trustee transfers and implement a disciplined rebalancing plan. In summary, you have learned that fees and fund quality should drive rollover decisions. You also saw how the governmental 457B offers powerful early access advantages compared to a 401k. Additionally, you now have a concrete checklist to execute a cost-efficient rollover and a contribution strategy that coordinates with pensions and Roth considerations. With these tools, you can enhance your long-term compounding while preserving flexibility. Thank you for watching. If this video helped clarify your rollover decisions, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. Finally, we would love to hear your questions and strategies in the comments so we can continue to create helpful guides tailored to your needs.